Hi again guys, and welcome to episode 37 of D.A.R.C, or Does Anyone Really Care? The mini review series where we're just doing a quick evaluation and recommendation of cars which seem to be kind of underloved and underused by many, not all, but many GT6 users. So in this episode we're featuring a very rarely used car, the Alpine A310. It's a classic French sports car. It has a relatively unique layout among sports cars of GT6 in that it's rear engine, rear wheel drive. So similar to a Porsche. And many people do consider this to be the French equivalent of a classic Porsche. But obviously being rear engine, rear wheel drive gives it unique handling characteristics and does result in having the majority of the car's weight over the rear axle, which can make the front end quite light and a little bit unpredictable. So in this version that you see here, I am actually running a considerable amount of ballast over the front end to counteract that and improve the handling really overall. But without that ballast, the baseline fully tuned specs that you can expect from this car are a maximum PP of, I would say, a surprisingly low 477 pp fully tuned, which is actually pretty good for this car. It's quite competitive at that level. It's even more competitive at a lesser pp, I would say 450 or even 425 to be honest. Fully tuned, the power is a reasonable 253 brake horsepower, so it's not amazingly powerful, but it is a small classic car, so you don't really want a stupid amount of power to be coming out of it. I mean, on paper you may want that kind of power, but the reality is you just wouldn't be able to use it effectively. Now its weight, as I said, I'm running considerable ballast, but without that ballast it has a weight with the full weight loss package of 812 kilos, so it is a relatively lightweight classic sports car. Power to weight ratio is pretty good on this one, and it is a relatively small car. The centre of gravity is nice and low from being a sports car, and overall the dimensions of the car are quite small. It's a reasonably narrow and not particularly long car. The looks can kind of divide opinion. Personally, I think it's a pretty cool looking little car, but I can completely understand why some people may not think so. Handling wise, as we said, the front end can be a bit light, and as you can see from this video, I do get the back end out on some corners, but overall with ballast over the front end it does actually have pretty good handling. Now I'm not necessarily saying that it has class leading handling. It's definitely not the best handling classic or the best handling low PP sports car, but it is very fun. It has quite a unique handling signature even with the ballast, and it is, I would say, a very enjoyable car to drive. Now I don't actually use this car for racing. As I said earlier, I do believe it has the potential to be pretty good at lower PP racing, but I mainly just use it as just a car for a bit of fun really, just the kind of car that I pull out on a cruise lobby, say on Sierra, and just drive it for a bit of fun. This car is very good for that. That is what cars like this were made for, to be toys in effect. And although Alpine does have a considerable racing history, unfortunately we don't really have any of their racing models on the game. Now the majority of people who do buy an Alpine model seem to tend to go for the premium version, which I personally don't like. I don't like the look of the premium model or the standard counterpart, which is essentially the same car but a different year with a slightly different spec. Personally, I vastly prefer this model, the A310, over either of the other Alpine models. I actually prefer this to the VGT Alpine as well, to be honest. In terms of performance, you're looking at a top speed in the region of 180 or more, depending on how you tune it. So the top speed for the power is pretty good, and pretty good as well for a lower PP vehicle, although not necessarily the best. And the acceleration also, thanks to its low weight, is also pretty good. Now, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as a competition car, although with the certain driving styles of some people, it may be a competitive machine. I would recommend it to people who are just looking for something a bit different and something just to have a bit of fun with, and it also teaches you how to tune alternative drivetrain layouts of vehicle, in this case rear engine, rear drive. Now, it has a price of 33,000 credits, so for a classic sports car, it's pretty reasonable on Gran Turismo compared to the price of many classics. And overall, that's it for this review. So if you haven't tried this car, I would recommend that you give it a go. And I'll see you guys next time. So as always, thanks for watching.